Hey everyone, Argonath here from Return of the Fan, and there's a new article out on Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV series that they're creating, and unfortunately, it looks like the series is going woke. I had my suspicions on this with the news when it first came out and so on, and some of the comments that were being made by people in New Zealand. And unfortunately, looks like it's being confirmed in this article from Screen Rant. Just to let you know, I am a massive Lord of the Rings fan. Totally loved Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. Amazing trilogy, probably the best trilogy of all time, hands down. There can be no question of that. I still remember seeing the Balrog scenes in the Mines of Moria in the theatre when I first saw Fellowship of the Ring, and it just completely blew me away. Just amazing movies, so well done by Peter Jackson and his screenwriters. Just couldn't believe how well I never read the books beforehand, so I don't hold it up against the books like a lot of other people might do, which is perfectly fine. But to me, it was a perfect trilogy. I didn't really like the Hobbit trilogy that came after it. Wasn't as good, and I think it's because it was kind of based on a single book, which had to stretch across three movies, whereas with the original trilogy, they had a lot of source material to go on. But unfortunately, I had my misgivings about the Amazon's Lord of the Rings show when it was first announced anyway, because there is no source material for this show, right? Because pretty much it's set before Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit actually exist, so they didn't have any source material for that. So they're going to have to write their own completely new stories, and you know what screenwriters are like these days in Hollywood and so on. But let's have a read of this article. Lord of the Rings show hobbits won't be all white like the movies. Amazon's upcoming Lord of the Rings TV show will feature more diverse hobbits, according to British actor Lenny Henry, who will appear in the series. Now, I don't really have a problem with them having some more diverse hobbits, I guess, but if you think of where the hobbits live in the Shire, it's not really a place where you'd expect there'd be a huge amount of sun beating down on these people as they're living in the Shire. And so generally you wouldn't expect to see too many hobbits with dark skin, because the environment that they lived in doesn't really kind of allow for that. So if you think in our world today, a lot of people in hot temperate areas have darker skin, right? Because it protects people from the sun. Whereas you go to places like Europe, which doesn't have as much sun and so on, which have a lighter pigmentation. So if someone from a lighter pigmentation stays out in the sun for too long, they get sunburnt very easily because their skin is not made to handle a very harsh sun. Whereas people who have a darker skin, they don't get sunburnt as easily because of the protection that the melanin inside their skin actually gives them. So there's a reason why hobbits probably were all white, is because the area that they lived in. And that's probably true for a lot of the people that live in Middle Earth, because it might be kind of a continent, but it's kind of going to have generally the same temperate area, right? So that could be a reason why originally all of the cast was white, because it kind of makes sense in the terms of the area that they actually live in. Alright, so let's carry on and have a read of this article. So the upcoming Lord of the Rings TV show will feature hobbits that are not white, according to Sir Lenny Henry. The epic fantasy trilogy followed Hobbit Frodo Baggins in his heroic quest to destroy the Ring of Power and save Middle-earth from the tyranny of the Dark Lord. Peter Jackson's big screen adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's literary masterpiece is often considered one of the most successful and popular movie franchises of all time. Well, the best trilogy of all time, let's just say that. And the success of the films prompted a similar adaptation of The Hobbit several years later, but wasn't as good, unfortunately, in my opinion. Since the movies have ended, the legacy of Lord of the Rings has continued to endure, with so many comparing fantasies that have come since with the age-old classic. It was recently revealed that Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV show adaptation will receive a September 2022 release date on air on Prime Video streaming platform. The highly anticipated series has supposedly been in the works for years and is believed to be one of the most expensive television series ever made in terms of production and costs and personnel. So it's going to have to bring in a lot of extra money to Amazon for them to make it kind of worthwhile. So they're going to have to get a whole bunch of new subscribers, and I would imagine that there will be a lot of new subscribers because a lot of the Lord of the Rings fans really are looking out for more content. Just not me. So let's carry on. Now, on the start of the show, British comedian Lenny Henry has praised the additional diversity in the show with the inclusion of black hobbits. So you get these buzzwords coming in: diversity, inclusion. So you need to do this for no good reason, right? The 63-year-old appeared on BBC Radio 4's Saturday Live show to discuss the upcoming series and his role in it. As reported by Bleeding Course, Henry spoke about the differences between the show and the film series and how there will be a greater focus on diversity and female empowerment in this adaptation. I'm a half-foot. Just because J.R. Tolkien, who was also from Birmingham, suddenly there were black hobbits. That sentence doesn't seem to make sense. Oh well. I'm a black hobbit. It's brilliant. And what's notable about this run of the books, it's a prequel to the age that we've seen in the films. It's about the early days of the Shire and Tolkien's environment. So we're an indigenous population of half-foots. We're hobbits, but we're called half-foots. We're multicultural. We're a tribe, not a race. So we're black, Asian, and brown, and even Maori. So if you think back to when these so-called hobbits were living, there would be no easy way to get quickly around the globe or something, right? Unless you use magic, you can't hop on an airplane and fly around so that you can have a whole group of different race of people living in the same area, right? It just doesn't make sense. Why would there be hobbits which are black, Asian, brown, and Maori? It just doesn't make sense at all, right? They're just doing this for friggin' inclusion and diversity, right? So Amazon can show that they're trying to do the right thing and get all the people on Twitter on their side. And they're just going to turn off kind of fans of the series who want to be purists and not worry about these sort of things. If you just put it in there and didn't say anything about it, people wouldn't care. But once you start promoting inclusion and diversity, it starts turning people off. While Amazon has yet to release a trailer for their Lord of the Rings TV show, there is actually quite a lot known about the series. The show will be set 1,000 years before the events of the movies, which will allow the writers to explore new stories with the characters that audience haven't met yet. So of course, there's no source material. They can pretty much do whatever they want for this. So let's see if their screen script writers are any good as who worked on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Although Galadriel, Elrond, and Sauron will be part of the show's story, there is also a slew of other characters such as Orin, Beldor, Tyra, Trevin that audiences will be less familiar with. Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies did include a primarily white cast, but it's clear that Amazon is trying to diversify their characters, and for no good reason, I would assume, right? They're just doing it for woke points, and if you do that, you know the old saying, get woke, go broke. But I don't think it's going to happen to Lord of the Rings because it's such a massive franchise. So Prime Video has become the top contender in the streaming wars for shows like The Boys and Invincible, and Lord of the Rings should be another show to drive up their subscription numbers. Even 20 years since Jackson's first Lord of the Rings movie came out, the franchise is still incredibly popular. While characters like Frodo and Sam will always be beloved by fans, it will be a fresh change of pace to see more diversity in such a popular setting. They're just coming back to this diversity thing, right? They don't talk about the stories, the amazing characters that were in the movies and that might be in the show. It's just like, got to have more diversity. That's what you need to have in a modern TV show. If the actual characters and the world building and stuff like that, regardless of what Amazon does, their show will likely be criticised if it strays away too much from Jackson's vision. Well, of course, because you're doing Lord of the Rings, so you'll need to, right? I have heard things that are going to include more nudity and sexual content, like Game of Thrones. Again, I really think that would just turn off a whole bunch of the Lord of the Rings fan base, because that is not what Lord of the Rings is about. If you go down that route, it's not what Lord of the Rings fans are looking for. Don't try and become another Game of Thrones. Look how that ended in its last season. It was terrible. Um, just stay your course, be faithful to the books and J.R. Tolkien's vision. You don't need any gay, lesbian, bisexual characters in the stories, because it wasn't part of the original books, right? So don't do that kind of stuff, otherwise you're going to turn fans off. But focusing more on diversity and female empowerment, which should be a welcome change to the Lord of the Rings. What the hell are you talking about? The person who wrote this particular article, what's your name? Matthew Biggin. There were already empowered female characters in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, right? There was Arwen, who took on one of the Wraith Knights, Death Knights, right? There's Eowyn, right? She wasn't a warrior queen or anything like that, but she was a very strong female character. She gave up her immortality for the person she loves. How strong is that? Right? That is a very strong character, a very strong female, that she would give up everything for the person that she loves. And then we had Galadriel, right? She was a very powerful character in the story as well. So there were already empowered woman characters in Lord of the Rings. To say that you need more female empowerment, that is just ridiculous. There was already very strong, and they didn't need to proclaim these strong women when they promoted the movies or anything. It just came through in the movies itself, right? I really love the character of Galadriel. It was just, very, very cool character. So I have nothing against female characters, but you don't need to go on bleating about it all the friggin' time. And you're going to turn people off Amazon. But I guess that's what they're looking for. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments section. Are you going to be looking forward to the Lord of the Rings TV show and going to be watching it? I'm out. Right, from what I've heard, from the nudity and sexual content, and now what I've read here about the diversity and female empowerment stuff, it seems that this is going to be what they're focusing on rather than actual storytelling and telling a really great story. So I'm out. I could be wrong. I'm happy to eat my words if I'm wrong. If they come out with a really awesome TV show and it's really good, then that's cool. I'll eat my words, and I guess I'll check it out. But I won't be watching it when it comes out. I'll just wait and see what it's like. But I have a feeling that it's not something that I will like anyway. So I've got my original Lord of the Rings trilogy with me. No one can take that away from me. I've got the extended version on Blu-ray. Haven't got the 4K version because I don't have a 4K player or display to watch it on. But if I do get a 4K display, I will buy Lord of the Rings again on 4K. Have no problems doing that because it is awesome. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section. Be awesome. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, you're welcome to give me a thumbs down. That's not a problem. If you like my content, then please give me a subscription. It will just help get my videos noticed by the YouTube algorithm. And hopefully I will catch you in the next video.